Welcome to Q&A practice. We'll start off with the defense attorney. Ready? Here we go. But you are generally familiar with those underlying records. Is that correct? Absolutely, yes. May I have a moment, please? Okay, we're going to give this another try with Mr. Watkins. Again, just for the witness, please. So what you see on the screen now is your presentation, right? That's correct, yes. A portion of the AT&T records from April 10th, 2013. Thank you. If I could just have my laptop this time for the witness. Is that the record from which you took that? I can make it bigger. Sorry. Yeah, it looks on the surface like it is. Yes. Well, that's April 10, 2013, right? Yes. And those are the records that you put into the presentation, right? Yes. I grabbed a screenshot of a couple of lines, and could I have this? And those are records that were received by the government from AT&T for Jahar Sar. AT&T cell phone, correct? Right, I think they received a couple different, like they got a certain time period, then they wanted to extend that time period. So which set I used, between the two time periods that were obtained, because one was much longer than the other. I don't recall off the top of my head. But you reviewed records for that phone going back at least until December 2012, which is how you prepared your other presentation. Yes, correct. To December 11, 2012, correct? Like I said, for this phone, I only went back to, as I testified to earlier, I only went and did December 25th and 26th. Your Honor, I'd ask that this be marked for identification. All right. No objection to identification, not as an exhibit, though. I'm sorry. No objection as to identification, not as an exhibit. Yes. In reviewing those records, you told us about Jahar's location on December 25th and 26th, correct? That's correct, yes. And he was a student at UMass Dartmouth during that time, correct? Yes. And I think you testified about that being the Christmas break, correct? Yes. And in the records that you reviewed, did you note that Mr. Jahar Sar, spent much of his time in the Dartmouth area based on his cell phone data usage? Yeah, as I remember, it definitely went down there, even the week of April 15th. Thank you. I don't have any further questions. Anything else? I do have some brief follow-up. Agent Fitz, you were asked several questions about these calls that occurred on the 15th, the date of the marathon bombing, at about 14:49. Is that 2:49 for those of us who haven't been in the military? Yes. So at 2:49, is that the first contact between the two phones, the new T-Mobile phone that was subscribed to by Jahar Sarni, and the T-Mobile phone that was subscribed to by Tam Sarnev? Right, I believe it was the first, if I remember correctly, it was the first call of the day even. But yes, it was definitely the first call between them. Can we call up 1172? And this reflects those calls. Yes. So as you can see, the first call of the day on the 15th is the 249 call you were asking about. And is that a call of 19-second duration outgoing from Jahar's phone to Tam's phone? It is. Now, Ms. Conrad asked you a number of questions about what the call duration means. The 19 seconds that appear here, what can you say that means in terms of the phone contact of the 9151 phone? That's how long that phone utilized resources on the T-Mobile network. And did you also review Tam's phone records around that for that same cell? Yes. And did that, in fact, show that there was a call on the same date and time for 17 seconds? Right. I think it might be off by a second. But yes, it's relatively the same time. And that seizure period, or the handshake period where the phone is talking to the cell tower, can that be just a matter of less than a second, up to maybe several seconds? Right. I think several people have experienced both ends of that, where you dial the number, hit send, and your call starts connecting. Or sometimes, like the defense mentioned, you'd dial your number, hit send, and it might take a little while before your phone call actually gets connected. Do you know whether this call was made before or after the Marathon bombing? I believe it was. Objection, Foundation, Your Honor. Yes, sustained. How do you know when this call was made vis-a-vis the Marathon bombing? Objection, sustained. It's also not proper redirect. So Ms. Conrad asked you about a call at 1451, which is the very next call. Do you remember that? Yes. And she highlighted that there was a slight discrepancy between Jahar's phone records and Tam's phone records of 1 second. I think one was at 20:51:18 and one was at 20:51:19. Do you remember that? Yes. And can you explain the discrepancy? Well, once again, it's the person making the call. It's just how long each call was using resources. The person dialing the phone, you know, logically, that call, when you're dialing and hitting the green button, it's going to happen sooner than the person receiving the call. Can we call up Exhibit 1440? I believe it's page 8. Does this reflect that call? Yes. And so this reflects that if there's a school over here, that the 4634 number was in the area or was in the sector assigned to that school. Objection, Your Honor, sustained. Ms. Conrad asked you some questions about phone extraction. Can you explain to the jury why data collected from a handset or a phone is different from the data collected from the phone company that provides the tower log records? Right. So the phone company pulls that information from the switch that, like I mentioned earlier on direct, it's pretty much the brains behind the operation. It's the one controlling all the handoffs. That's where the phone detail records occur. The phone extraction software, like I testified to, I don't know where it's grabbing the information from. how it's grabbing the information, or even from provider or from manufacturer to manufacturer, an iPhone versus an S5, even a Samsung versus an HTC. I don't know how that phone software maintains those logs, but that's what the phone extraction or the forensic tool is relying on to obtain those records that were brought up by the defense. And does a cell phone capture all of the same data that is captured by the cell phone network? No. For a perfect example, the phone extraction is not going to be able to tell you what tower and sector was being utilized versus the switch knows what tower and sector was being utilized. Now on this graphic, does this show then what the call by TAM was made in the sector, this sector over here? Yes. Can we go to, this is a little wider, it goes out to this edge right here. All right, we will stop there. That will conclude our Q&A practice.